Hi, Tara Christie, President and CEO of Banyan Gold. I'm here at our AurMac project near Mayo in the Yukon. Banyan, we are rapidly advancing this AurMac project. 2 drills turning right now, gone from initial resource of 900,000 ounces, which we put out last June, and now we've drilled, well, almost 30,000 meters since then. So really exciting year planned for our shareholders, and plan to see lots of news flow from us this year as we continue to really drill and advance this project.
Tara, lovely to see you. Thanks for coming on again. I noticed you've done something different with the office, though. Looks different.
Yes.
I can't put my finger on it.
This is my yeah. No suit today or dress. I'm out in the field here. It was great. We announced that financing earlier this week, and I wanted to get out here right away to start to plan for what we're going to do and how we're going to spend that money, make sure that we're set up to bring in some additional drills, talk to our people, make sure they're all planned to go the distance, because we're going to be the one company still drilling into November, maybe even December, like we did last year.
Wow. Okay. So where are you? All kidding aside, what are we looking at there?
I'm in the core shack right here on the AurMac project. It's a pretty great place. I'm on cell phone here because, doing Zoom on cell phone just like I would in the office or in downtown Vancouver. And, that's one of the unique things about our project. We have fabulous infrastructure. The power station's just less than a kilometer away from me here, and the main power line, the road to Victoria Gold. Our 2 neighbors are the 2 newest producing mines here in the Yukon, Alexco and Victoria Gold. And, it's just that fabulous infrastructure, main highway. I'm a 35-minute drive from the community of Mayo. We actually have a couple of people that live in the community and drive out daily, which makes our project pretty different. That fabulous infrastructure beside 2 mines.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about Alexco and Victoria shortly, actually, because people are asking about this relationship between the 3 of you, where this is all going. So I'm sorry to be a small school child like person at this point, but I get quite excited when I sort of see what's going on, where the money's going, and so forth. So have you've got some? That's the core shack there. So have you got core with like visible gold? I mean, what are you assessing in the core shack?
So here we're logging the core. And we're looking for different structures, and on Aurex Hill, the mineralization is in this concentration of sheeted veins. And so, I can pick up a piece of core here, and I can get it out and show you that, this is what we do. We mark it up. There's some of the veining that we're seeing, and that's what's carrying the mineralization. And yeah, I do have some visible core just over here. We're seeing visible, that red circle is right. Visible gold. And actually, I've got a whole core tray right here that every single one of the samples in that whole core tray actually has visible gold in it. And we found more visible gold this year, and certainly, the northern end of power line and, power line where we're getting some of that 1 gram stuff, we found quite a bit of visible gold. And that's not bad. It's going to be potentially a open pit heap leach mine is the bulk tonnage, but it's always really exciting. We have a little competition for the person that finds the most visible gold, and they got the most recent prize was a bottle of scotch. So a little bit of internal competition between all our geos.
That would do it. That would definitely do it. I mean, it's sort of people. I mean, seeing visible gold. People go through their whole careers not seeing visible gold, don't they? It's not hard. It's not easy, rather.
Yeah, it just depends on the type of deposit. And sometimes, just because you see visible gold doesn't mean it's going to be mineable. There's lots of high-grade, narrow vein stuff where, they're not mineable because there's too much dilution, and ultimately a little bit of high grade doesn't work out. And that's why, this is a big bulk tonnage. And what matters here are those big intersections, the 186 meters of 0.75, all of those big intersects, which overall end up, all of it ends up on the heap leach pad, right? So Victoria Gold, the cutoff grade is 0.15. And so everything over 0.15 goes to the heap leach pad. So finding some 1 gramish stuff, and, on Aurex Hill there, where there were those historic RAB drill holes up to 1.54, that's really exciting because it's on surface. Could be an area where we start or where a mine started, where you get some higher grade right on surface. So,
Got it.
that's in the future. That's still potential, but that's part of the excitement of exploration is taking it from an idea and a geological model, which we did. This was power line was a brand new discovery in 2019 from us logging old core, and look at it now. It's progressing so quickly. We're doing that grid of 100-meter step outs, and so far we haven't found an edge to mineralization at power line. We can see from the drilling that we did to the north and the east, the mineralization is still going strong. Over to the west, going towards the power station, again, mineralization is still going strong, and to the south. So, the fact that it's horizontal and right here beside the road and the power line is pretty exciting. And that's what geologists, you get this model and this idea, and you go and drill test it, and that really gives you lots of satisfaction to have success like that.
Yeah, and you said that you every hole was hitting mineralization, and you obviously got to work out what's there, what's economic, and so forth. But sorry, just to help me get this sort of childish, immature bit of the conversation out of the way, can you sort of poke your head out the core shack and sort of show us around the camp just to see what's there?
Yeah, so we're pretty modest in our camp. Go out the door here. And there are mosquitoes here. But, these are our little office shacks, our fuel tanks over here. That's beautiful Mount Haldane. A little bit of forest fire smoke this morning. I think there's a few forest fires here. Then if you were behind those trees over there, that would be where power line starts, the substation's over there. And then as we pan around, that's the rest of power line. And then this hill up above the core shack, that's Aurex Hill. So really everything's pretty condensed here. These are our core shacks. We need one of these core shacks per drill. So, we're planning to build a couple more core shacks. And then the smaller shack there is the cutting shack. So we have 2 core saws in every cut shack, and they support 2 core shacks. So you can see all the core that's come in from yesterday and the last couple days. Over here, yeah, so it's pretty modest. We don't have a lot of extra here. We really try to spend our money on drilling.
Interesting. It's interesting. I didn't realize you had to keep the core shacks for different drills. That's to stop any mix up? Why do you do it that way?
Yeah, it just keeps it a system. You don't absolutely have to have one. That's just our system. Every drill is supported with equipment. You don't get a huge backlog, which you want to get that core processed and into the lab as soon as possible, because especially in the summer, back in February when we were drilling, there wasn't quite so much competition at the lab, but now I definitely think we're starting to see some delays. We were getting 20-day turnarounds. The last results were 35, 40 days. So definitely starting to see the timelines pushed now that other people have joined us drilling in the Yukon.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of the company stuff. So, thanks for showing me around. I always quite like it. I think site visits are always quite telling and revealing. Some people like to have quite lavish setups, and others just want to focus on the business of drilling. And it's kind of interesting to see where you sit in that mix. You've announced the 16 million non-brokered private placement. Okay, so 16 million compared to your market cap is quite a chunk. Why did you go for that number?
Well, we had a couple strategic investors that had, wanted enough to make it worth their while. A lot of the institutions have targeted amounts that they need to have, whether it's a percentage or, they look at liquidity and they want to, or they, need to have a minimum investment level. So when you start with one of those and then you add on, some of your long-term shareholders and our corporates who've been involved, number gets big pretty fast. But the other really important reason for a big number is because then we aren't going to be vulnerable to the market. We have enough money to get ourselves all the way through a significant resource update and then a PEA. So, that gets us all the way through 2022 with very significant exploration and even the G&A well into 2023. So, the flow through, of course, you have to spend. So we'll have to spend it by the end of next year. And you'll notice that most of the dollars we raised were flow through, because we do tend to spend it in the ground. And another unique thing is because we have that long exploration season, we can both add drills and then also extend the season. So it gives us the opportunity to, you increase the number of drills, but you also want to get your results back and make sure that you're drilling in the right areas. So, we started in February this year and we drilled to December 15th last year. So we can similarly have a very long season. You can see all of our shacks are insulated, have heaters in them, because we do plan to be here when it gets cold. And yeah, it does get to 30 below. And, we tend to stop drilling in our activities when it's minus 35. But, sometimes it's actually better to be drilling when it's minus 20, minus 25 and the ground's frozen. You do less disturbance when you're traveling out over the snowpack. It's also pretty efficient drilling. So, and we're northerners, I grew up in the Yukon and working in Canada's north. So it's a great time to get stuff done in the spring and the fall.
So talk about some of the aims, because we've talked in the past about, setting self targets with this amount of money, which, let's face it, 6 months ago, you probably weren't considering this sort of quantum. So do the plans change? Do the targets you set yourself change? Does the resource number that you're aiming for change?
Yeah, I'm not going to announce a number quite yet, but we are definitely, I've been saying that we were targeting over 2 million ounces with the program that we'd planned for this year, which was 15,000, and then we upped that to 22,000 with the money we had. And we're still well on track for that between Airstrip and Powerline, and then Aurex Hill. We want to get an initial resource there. So, we've got a whole lot of results in the lab right now. And as we get those back, we'll update what we think our target is for Powerline. And then as we get some results back from Aurex Hill, we'll be able to plan for what we think we can develop for a resource there. And, we want to make sure that we under promise and over deliver, because that's what the market is. If you give a number too early, then, but, I think this property in this area has the potential for 3 to 5 million ounces from the geology that we're seeing, from the size potential, from what we see at Aurex Hill. And the drilling is the truth teller, but that is kind of our vision for us. And I think with two mines right beside us, and everybody knows that Victoria Gold is planning on their project 250, which is increasing their
300
their production.
300, I heard.
Oh, 300.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you interviewed Victoria this week. I saw that.
Yes, it was actually a good interview. I think it's out in the club at the moment, but the general public will be getting that, I think, in the next couple of days or so. But yeah, good interview. But yeah, they're aiming big. Well, this is a nice point to talk about this. Okay, between Alexco and Victoria, they've got some ambitious plans. M&A is part of it. Lots of questions sent in between the relationship between the three companies. You've got a couple of big boys there. You're just starting out, but you've set yourself some ambitious targets there. Are there constant discussions going on as to how you guys all work together a little bit, or who gets to maybe look at your data and maybe if there's some sort of future relationship between all of you? Because you've got a decent sized property there. I know you've got a bit of money now, but you might want to find a partner in the near future, might you?
So yeah, the relationship between Alexco and Victoria has really been from the start, and it was part of the original idea of Banyan. Remember, when I became the CEO in 2016, we only had our Hyland project. I knew about the AurMac project because long before I was a CEO, back in 2013, my family had bought all the placer rights right under this property from an estate. I knew about Bernie Kraft, who had taken out 16 tons of 2-ounce material, which is just about 200 meters to the west of this core shack, right from surface, mined it just with an excavator from some high-grade veins. So I knew about that, and I knew that the two properties were non-core to Alexco and Victoria Gold. And before that, they were, there was really fractured ownership. Nobody had put the whole land package together. So, here we are in 2017. Alexco held one end, Victoria Gold had the other. everybody knew likely mineralization right around the property boundary, and we've confirmed that, and we're going to be drilling right up to the property boundary this year, within the next couple of weeks. So, it really took another party, and the idea between Alexco and Victoria Gold was to put it in another junior, which was Banyan, which was somebody that they knew. They knew that we shared their exploration philosophy, which was really putting money in the ground, very science-based, had the same kind of working philosophy of getting along with the community and making sure that we're giving back, which is so important. So that was probably why the deal came together, and it's basically a parallel deal where we earn in, they both put in equity and have continued to put in equity, and so that's where Alexco and Victoria got their original stake, was both from shares issued but also putting equity in. And then we really were collaborative because it enabled us in the lean times to keep our costs down. We started staying at Alexco's camp until they became a mine, and then they needed, and COVID hit, and they needed all their rooms, and that forced us to grow up and put in our own camps and infrastructure. But we also shared, core loggers and geos, and core cutters and people, so that we didn't have to, bring in additional people when we had to short-term jobs. And even now, if we share people, that gives them experience, but it also means that we can promise people longer jobs, which is, exploration. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 month jobs, which aren't great for people's lifestyles. So our crews, we work from February, and now they know they're going to have jobs through till November, which is pretty unique in the exploration business. And by sharing them, that lets both of us have longer term and better trained employees. So there's that collaboration. On the data side, we don't share our assays that aren't public with either Victoria Gold or Alexco, but very similar to everybody else. You'll notice we have all of our assays and our drill color locations on our website, and we update that roughly every 2 to 3 weeks, so that everything that's public is available and people can do their own analysis of where they're at. And that's why, that research, there's a mosquito, research that came out from Sprott, last week, they were actually able to look at the real data themselves and do their own analysis.
Interesting. So back to the kind of heart of the question, which was, what are the terms of that agreement? Because, could one of those two parties step in and say, do you know what, I'm going to take this thing out? I know we're looking forward, but...
Yeah, there's no back-in right to it.
No,
so we have the election completely at our election to earn 100%. We're well on track for that. What we have left to do, we've completed all of the earn-in expenditures on both sides. So at some point we have to make another payment in either cash or shares to both Alexco and Victoria Gold, and we have to complete a PEA or PFS to earn 100% on the property. So we're well on track. We've got 5 years to complete all of that, and I think we're well ahead on that earn-in. So and no back-in rights. That was part of the original deal.
Okay.
So yeah, we have big shareholders, but just like everybody else, they have to abide by the same rules if they get over 10%, et cetera. So that gives it's opportunity for our shareholders that we kind of have 3 competitors already in our share registry. But I also think AurMac, over 2 million ounces, is a standalone project because we have as you said, very large land package, lots of room.
Well, that was going to be my question here. Can this be a standalone project? Does it need one of those other two stepping in and bolting it onto their existing project? You think it can stand alone?
I believe
you're being attacked.
Yeah.
You're being violently attacked by mosquitoes, aren't you?
Mosquitoes. Yeah, it's been a heavy mosquito year this year, but
they get up early.
They get up early. I'm up early too.
Yeah. So what time is it there?
It's about 6:15.
Oh boy.
AM.
Okay. Well, crikey. Good. I was going to ask also, where is everyone? Because when you're panning around the camp, it's like there's no one there. Are you sure? Are you sure you've got people working? But it's early there. So do they come?
It's early.
Do they drive?
Out there.
Do they? Sorry, go on.
Do they drive? Sorry.
They drive in. Okay.
No, the drill working. Every 2 drills are turning.
So, in fact, it's what you're talking about. You talked about the sort of seasons and so seasonality of it all. But how long do the drills turn for each day? I mean, how long can they turn for?
Well, with no mechanical breakdowns, ideally they would, run for 24 hours a day. But you do have mechanical. So they're 12-hour shifts, and the drillers take over for each other. So yeah, the idea is to have as little downtime for all of the mechanical and other stuff as possible. And that's how you really get production. And having experienced drillers is really important. We've got, we've had to train a lot of people this year because there's quite a bit of competition for people. And I think that will be a challenge for lots of projects, is finding qualified people and drillers and helpers.
Well, also the cost of all of this as well. Especially, I know COVID's been tricky, and we've been talking to lots of companies with having to deal with COVID and moving people around, moving equipment around, getting supplies in, the cost of the materials, yep. The availability of drill, not just the drill rigs, but the actual personnel to run those has been complicating matters. I mean, it hasn't affected you hitting your targets, but you've done that quite easily. But are you still seeing that as a continuing concern?
COVID had a big impact on everybody, and we all had to adjust our camps. We had to put in more bathrooms so that you could have people self-isolating, accommodation that didn't share air. In the Yukon, to bring somebody in from outside a province, we actually have a approved self-isolation plan. So they come in and they can work, but we very much make sure that they are separate in their workspace and their living space. They eat in their own space so that there's no potential for transmission, which is super important. We've been successfully doing, having people come up since last year in June, and touch wood, we haven't had a COVID case on site or amongst our employees. But it's been a juggling act for sure. That extra planning, there were extra costs related to extra rooms. We now have way more rooms just because, and way more bathrooms, which long-term is great for us now ramping up. But at the time, it's like, really? They've got to put more money into that?
Well, like I say, you just raised some money, which is really good. So you said you can't announce yet what the plans are, or what you're going to be targeting and how much money you're going to be allocating at the different projects. But when can we expect to see that?
Well, I can tell you that all that flowed through that. Basically, there's 13.5 million in flow through, which will go to exploration, drilling between particularly Powerline and Aurex Hill. And towards a resource update, still planning that for Q1 of 2022, and then starting the PEA. So the majority of that money is going to go to AurMac, because that's we might spend a little bit of money on Hyland, but most of it's going to go on. And we know that money has to be spent on exploration because it's flow through. So our resource target's going to increase. Once we start to get our results back from Powerline, we'll be able to get a sense of that. Targeting over 2 million ounces, which is what I think is a critical threshold for a Yukon project to be standalone. And really what we find at Aurex Hill will tell us the scope of how large that potentially could be.
Fantastic. Well, look, I'm sorry, I know it's early. You probably haven't had breakfast or coffee yet. So thanks for getting up so early to, invite us into your home, your second home. I always get quite excited when I look at this. I wish more companies would do it. I quite like looking at what companies have built up and the scale of the infrastructure. Should maybe, if you've got any shots of, where the drill bits are and stuff, I'd love to maybe help share those with people as well, because that's the exciting end of all of this, isn't it?
Yeah, I have some drone footage too over Aurex Hill, and that shows, the power line and the camp and everything.
Send it.
Standing up on Aurex Hill and just seeing the scope of it is really quite, it's a bit awing. I show people that soil anomaly on the map, and you talk about it, and then to go stand on it next to the drill and just go, wow, that soil anomaly goes from here all the way over there. And then, taking the drone up there and looking around, and, drones are such amazing exploration tools because they really can show you areas and just put it all into perspective. So yeah, I'll send you some drone imagery because it tells an amazing story of this property.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks for catching up with us today. We'll see you soon, perhaps when you get your feet behind the desk, or maybe not.
Yes, by this fall, we'll have lots of news flow, and I can give you an update on the exact plans.